So Commissioner Terry Brannon, welcome to Don and Friends.
Glad to be here.
It's been a while since
Yes.
we've had you in,
Yes.
and here's the thing.
Yes.
Last fall, we gathered downtown and we went on a walking tour. Now when I say we, I mean as in the commissioners and whoever wanted to join in on this walking tour of the downtown area. So we're going to skip right into the meat of this thing. It had kind of been something that had been on a plate, so to speak, and then finally, we decided to have the meeting and do it. And the purpose was just bringing awareness to some different issues downtown. So speak to me about what your thoughts were on the walking tour.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to know that people that were really concerned about the downtown area reached out to us as commissioners, some of us, and said, hey, we believe it would be very fruitful for you to come down and take a tour of downtown and see what it is that we are seeing, and see if you have that same picture in your mind of what everyone else is seeing when they drive through town.
Right.
A much different perspective than just passing through Main Street. Mm-hmm. And so it was really neat to see our chairman call a meeting in Centennial Park, have members of the downtown association there, as well as business owners in the downtown area come and join us there to do the walking tour, and members of the media
right.
there as well, inclusive of yourself. And one of the things that I learned on that walking tour was that we have a lot of issues that really take away from the beauty of what downtown used to be.
Right.
And it really, I think it really created in my mind a terrible conflict between public interest mm-hmm. and private interest mm-hmm. and public dollars versus private dollars.
Yes.
So really has begun to really kind of formulate in my mind of how are we going to look as a city to begin to deal with some of the things that we
right.
saw.
Well, as we made that tour, of course, we kind of started out at the corner here mm-hmm. At the Trees building, and then we headed toward Grant McNeil's place. Fabulous job they've done with that building. I love a positive, and that is something that's been put back together and is a beautiful building
yes.
to behold. But
yes.
we go on past that, and I think we went past what used to be the Cubbage, mm-hmm. offices and that type thing, and on around, coming up around Dodrell's, and within that block we have several problems, and some of those is just vacant buildings. Mm-hmm. One of the main things that are a concern to the people downtown is here cat a corner from us, what used to be the old bank.
Yes.
And then the pet store, and then of course the store next to that.
Right.
Those were kind of tough. I mean, we're showing footage, of some of that as we speak, and that was probably the worst end.
Well,
probably,
I would agree with you. Probably what was probably more concerning than anything that I found on the tour for me personally mm-hmm. as a commissioner is the fact that one of the building fronts looks perfectly fine.
Right.
But you go and you look behind that building.
Yes.
It looks fine. But you look on the inside of that building and it's completely collapsed.
Yes.
It's on the ground.
Right.
How alarming for the adjacent business owner who's doing their best to keep their building maintained, and then you begin to get concerned about leaking and structural issues and things like that directly impact another business owner who's trying to do all the right things.
Right.
They're trying to do all the right things.
Right.
And so, again, it goes back to really putting, I think, a tremendous amount of pressure on us as decision makers for the people mm-hmm. on how to act. I think inside of myself, my reaction from the heart is that we should rush right in and remedy the problem because
sure.
we have absentee property owners who are choosing not to.
Right.
Now I have to take a step back and say, well, it's not just a heart issue, but I also have to apply my head as well. Mm-hmm. And so now we begin to talk about the use of public dollars yes. to address a private problem. Mm-hmm. And so that creates a tremendous burden, I think, on us. But I think at some point we're going to be forced to have to act. And I think when people see this and realize what exactly it is that we're dealing with in downtown, I hope people will decide to want to get engaged mm-hmm. and say, I think we need to do all we can to get the absentee property owners to step in and do something about it. And then if those people don't act, I think we have at least some obligation to go in and make it as best as possible for business owners who are trying to do the right thing. And therein comes the really tough part. But I think that the people who have been chosen and selected by the people here to be public servants can make a good, firm decision that I think that we can all live with.
Well, it's to me that walking tour is the first step to connecting downtown with our city government and addressing things. And you, I'm just guessing, as a city commissioner, you have this entire community.
Right.
And there are lots of issues within the community. Right. And to actually step out and take the tour or go here and there across the community with different concerns shows an engagement that's needed in this community.
And you are very right, Donna, and I'm going to take that a step further. It's not always pleasant to come to shows like this and be challenged with some of those questions, knowing that you saw what I saw.
Yes.
And so
now people are seeing what we saw.
Exactly. Yes. Now the people are seeing it. And so that engagement sometimes is not always positive, but the positive of the entire engagement in and of itself is that we had the wherewithal to come.
Yes.
Now it's time for us to come back and really begin to formulate a plan on how to respond and then eventually act. You know, one of the things that I said, I don't know if I mentioned it to you during the walking tour, but I said when I was a police officer here, I spent the majority of my career working night shift, which was typically from 10 to 6, 10 at night till 6 in the morning, or 11 till 7 in the morning. And we became so concerned about the overgrowth in the alleys of the trees and vines that we came down one night. We had a full shift that night, which was typically 4 policemen, which is really unheard of to be working at one time in our city, and it happened periodically. And a couple of us brought tree trimmers and hacksaws, and we cut trees down and pull vines down so we would make it safe for us to pass through those alleys to make sure that we were securing the property of our business owners.
And being able to see.
That's
important. And it's important for anybody that would choose to walk that alley.
Absolutely.
You know, just choosing to go down through, you know, and sometimes that's overgrown because the building itself has become vacant and there's no owner around to kind of see about doing something like that. So you take it upon yourself to a degree and you get involved, and that's a great example of what has had to happen down here and does happen in some areas of downtown just due to the fact we have absentee owners of buildings.
And I remember telling the story again. I said, you know, I remember that we stacked those trees and stuff up in the middle of the alleys. And I remember the police chief calling me that morning wanting to know if we knew who'd been downtown cutting trees. And I said no. Because I knew that we would probably get in trouble for taking that step. We didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But I knew we'd probably get in trouble because we weren't out patrolling. But you know, in fact, we were trying to make our jobs just a little bit safer so we could do a better job for the people and
really
for the business owners.
For the community at large downtown or visitor. I mean, you just never know who's going to be in our downtown area.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the first step.
It is.
Getting together and taking that walking tour. You know, things are sometimes at their ugliest before they get better.
Right.
And so in the future, you know, myself, as anyone in the community, hopes to see some engagement from our commissioners and also people in the community themselves. You need to become engaged. I mean, it takes, you know, a village to raise a child in a sense, and it's the same way with these problems we deal with in the community.
The heart of the community is the people.
Yes.
The heart of the community will never be your sitting city commissioners, your city government. We should focus on wanting less government. Government's role is to help when needed, but we should focus on less government and more people engagement. Government has a role to help people, but I don't think government should assume the role of doing everything.
Right. Well, they can't.
No, this is a democratic society.
Yes.
We have autonomy to choose and pick what we get involved in.
We have to figure out how to weave it together and figure out the solutions ourselves.
And more importantly, as someone who is looked upon as a politician because I'm in elected office, it's my job to also figure out how to get people's passion stirred, that they find a cause that they believe in so much that they want to do something about it.
Exactly. So I know we've got that within our community, and we're going to stir it up and get people involved, and it's all for a greater cause.
I agree.
And that is the Cushing community.
I agree.
Okay, so the tough subject, the City Hall renovations did not pass.
Yes. Well, hey, all I can say first of all is I appreciate the people of Cushing taking the opportunity to hear what it is that was said about why we believe that City Hall should be renovated, and making better use of that space and trying to consolidate all into one place. I'm not disappointed in the fact that it sends us back to the drawing board again and challenges us to say, hey, what is it that we didn't do so well? Did we not communicate well enough? Did some of the things turn people off? What was it that brought people to the decision
Terry,
to say...
do you think it could even have been something as simple as just timing?
Could have been. It could have been. I think it's something that you come back and you look at and say, how are we going to build on this, and how are we going to make these necessary improvements and get people, I don't want to use the word convinced, but get them to believe that this is something that will serve them well in the future and to be a good use of their dollars.
Well, I felt like one of the points made during this first attempt was how the first City Hall was 3 stories high, lasted around 47
Yes.
years, but could not be repaired.
Right.
So the current City Hall was built,
Yes.
and is structurally sound and could be renovated.
Exactly.
And, you know, maybe it just takes more of a clearer message of that type thing and those details. Maybe it's just timing. But, you know, what's great is that the people got out and they got engaged and they voted and the people spoke.
Absolutely, and that's, as an elected official, that's all I can ask for. Now, the other part that I'm going to ask for is that we, as a governing body that have been elected by the people, that we come back and say, hey, what is it that we haven't done so well? How are we going to turn this failure into a success for our community? Make it another beacon of light in our community that we're making some progress. You know, and I think that it's going to be a real challenge. One of the things that I am happy to say is that I'm glad that decision was in that hands of the voters.
Yes, because wouldn't that be a tough one to do?
Absolutely.
Well, Terry, I appreciate you expressing, you know, your thoughts on why that didn't quite make it this time, but it'll come back.
It will.
It'll be another
It'll come back.
Opportunity to vote again. We'll just figure out what the message needs to be to make it clear.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, you're watching Dawn and Friends. We'll be back with more. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.